Thank you for those who have joined. Really appreciate it. So, before we begin, I'll just give a brief introduction. So, my name is Hafsa, and I'm the co-chair of the LSWG and chairing today's session. So, welcome to the stream and to this 8H session. So, on this session, we actually have with us Nathan Bruce, and he's from the IBM UK domain, and he's actually the program management for IBM GDPS and IBM Z Cybervault. So, like I said in the beginning, if there are any questions throughout, please place them in the chat, and I'll be able to unmute you so you can directly speak to the speaker. And as well, my last thing I would like to say is that if you want to provide feedback for Nathan's session, please do it through your Bring Your Own Schedule agenda that you have created for yourself. And I will now pass on to Nathan, and he will take you through the Defend Yourself Against Logical Data Corruptions with GDPS LCP Manager. So the stage is yours, Nathan.
Awesome, thank you, Hasper. So yeah, let me get some slides up here, and we can get cracking.
Yeah, sounds great.
So share that and put that. And okay,
Yeah.
so hopefully everyone can see.
Yes, we can
Brilliant.
see your screen. Perfect. Thanks, Nathan.
Okay, well, I guess firstly, thank you all for taking the time to come along. As Hassan mentioned, it's a gorgeous day here in the UK. So I appreciate you coming and spending 45 minutes with me talking about LCP Manager and logical data corruption. So just for a brief introduction, my name's Nathan Bryce. I've been with IBM for a long time, more than 25 years, in a whole wide range of different roles, from both development management, the last kind of 10 years or so, product management, based in and around the mainframe for most of that last decade. So I've worked with the Kix teams here in Hursley. I've been on assignment out to North Carolina, where I headed up the AIOps product management team. But for the last couple of years, I've been working with the GDPS team. So I lead the product management group there, and also drive our IBM Z Cybervault offering. So as we see more and more kind of focus on cyber resiliency, that's really the area of business that I've been helping to drive here at IBM. Okay, so with that, let's dive in. Just a brief mention here, the session is 8H. There is a QR code on the right now. There is also a final slide at the end of the session. So as always, we really welcome feedback on the topics that we're presenting here. I will put up this slide at the end, so you can grab it with your phone at that point, but please do give us some feedback and let us know if this was useful. And as Hasfa said, I'm very happy to take questions. It's far more fun and interesting for me if we kind of get some feedback, and it's always difficult to know kind of the spread of expertise on these sessions. So please don't be afraid of asking any question. There is no stupid question. My job is to try and help people understand more about the solution. So whether you're an LCP expert and you have this running in your shop, or if you're curious and have heard about logical data corruption and want to know a bit more about it, please don't hesitate to ask, and then we'll try and pick those all up at the end and go through them. Okay, so let's dive in here, and I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about why cyber resiliency is increasingly important. And there's a couple of good surveys that IBM do. The cost of a data breach report, which is where these numbers are taken from. IBM has been running that survey for 18 years now, every single year, and the average cost of a data breach has now reached just under $4.9 million average, right? And that is not a mainframe number. That is across the board. Obviously, that's going to be skewed even higher for our larger enterprise clients. It's increased 10% just year on year. And the increase over the last kind of 3 to 5 years has been up 30 to 40%. So it's a huge issue for clients. There's a massive impact, both in terms of monetary impact, but also reputational impact. It seems like every week there's a new story in the press about something that's happened. Obviously, this week we don't know the cause of it, but Spain obviously had major outages in their electricity grid. We don't know whether that's a cyber attack yet or whether that was something to do with the grid itself, but increasingly both companies and infrastructure are being targeted, and it's incredibly important we are protecting ourselves against the impacts, which can be extremely, extremely large. And the other report I would recommend everyone go take a look at is the IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence Index. So we've been running this for a few years now. The X-Force Red team within IBM are the people that do pen testing services and other capabilities, which we use internally. We've pen tested GDPS for the last couple of years. But one of the quotes I thought was really interesting in the most recent report, which came out, was talking about how there's a huge rise in cyber criminals breaking in without breaking anything. And what that really means is they are logging in rather than hacking in to systems. And they're logging in through IDs that have been, acquired, whether that's bought, purchased on the dark web, that they've been harvested in some sort of data breach and criminals have sold those on the dark web, or whether that's some sort of spear phishing attack where, as per the MGM Grand outage of 18 months ago, LinkedIn profiles, Facebook profiles can be scraped. You can get a lot of information about a specific individual from what is available out there. You then target that individual, phone up, pretending that you're on the IT help desk, try and get them to give up some of their credentials, respond to fake MFA IDs that you're pushing to them, and this is the cutting edge of where cyber attacks are coming from these days. And the thing that I think is absolutely critical for the mainframe is, we really are the most securable platform on the planet, but you have individuals and fallible humans that are accessing those systems using IDs, and it's just as easy to conduct a spear phishing attack for someone that has mainframe credentials as it is for any other SaaS-based or distributed-based solution out there. So this is really growing, particularly over the last 2 years. So definitely something we all need to be aware of in the mainframe community. And when we look kind of globally, obviously governments are responding to this with increased regulation. I talk to clients all the time, and DORA has been a big driver. The Digital Operations Resiliency Act here in Europe came into effect in January this year. For any company, not just a European company, anyone operating in Europe now has to be DORA compliant and be able to articulate. So the ECB ran an exercise last year where they spoke to individual financial companies. They gave them a specific scenario. You have noticed that there's unusual activity happening. You believe that these IDs have been compromised. This is what's happening on your system. You tell us what are the actions you're going to take, how long it's going to take you for you to do them, and how are you going to recover from that situation when you've been breached. So we're seeing a lot of regulation worldwide that is driving some of these activities, across many of the clients that we work with. And just quickly to do a little bit of positioning here, I think it's worth talking about the difference between cybersecurity and cyber resiliency. Both are critically important, and you can think about both as being two sides of the same coin, if you like. Cybersecurity is about locking the doors on your house, right? It's about stopping the bad guys getting access in the first place. Multi-factor authentication, great example of where we're trying to make it harder for people to to actually get into the systems. But no matter what cybersecurity you have in place, it is absolutely impossible to be 100% confident that you cannot be attacked or your system's compromised, right? So cyber resiliency is all about saying, okay, if the worst happens, how am I going to recover from that? How am I going to get good copies of data back if someone has started encrypting everything with the intent of ransoming the encryption key back to you. How are you going to get those systems back up and running as soon as possible in order to make sure your users are, the impact is as minimal as possible for your clients. As for this, I believe Martin is or someone's in the waiting room. I don't know if you can take a look at that and add them.
Yep,
Perfect.
I just admitted him. Thanks.
Great. Okay, so, and I also just wanted to contrast a little bit here between traditional resiliency and what's required for cyber resiliency. So with traditional resiliency, you're typically looking at a disk-based replication environment. So whether you're talking 2 copies or 3 copies or 4 copies, you're replicating that data continuously out to different copies, either on the same site or potentially a site, a DR site, out of region and a long way away. So if you happen to have a hurricane, roll across you that floods your data centers, those regional-based disasters, an out-of-region site will help you with that. But the key point here is that it's continuous replication. So if someone is to access your system and start to encrypt your data, then within seconds, that's going to be replicated across all of your copies of data. So traditional resiliency, perfect approach for natural disasters, accidents, power loss, etc. But you need a fundamentally different technology for cyber resiliency, where your data is being logically corrupted, so changed, modified, encrypted, and you need to go back to an earlier copy of data. So the whole point of cyber resiliency is this focus on snapshots so that you can go back in time, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, we don't have tons of time in this session, but I'd say think about these things as being both required. Different technologies, they sound similar at kind of at first glance. Some people sometimes say to me, oh, I've got a 4-site Metro Mirror environment set up. Like, why do I need cyber resiliency? It's like, well, again, if you get corruption in your A copy, that's going to get propagated through everything. And then how do you recover? And just very briefly here, I won't go into details here, but this is the overall GDPS portfolio, which is IBM solution for HADR, traditional HADR. It consists of synchronous disk replication over a metro distance, so that if you were to lose one copy of data, so you say you have disk failure, you can hyperswap across to the B copy, and your applications will just continue to run. I've spoken to clients that have hyperswapped and they haven't noticed, right? It happens like that. The issue with this is because it's a synchronous write, so application will write to disk 1, that has to complete the write to disk 2 before that will return success, so you have that consistency of data. You run into a speed of light problem, right? So the further away that second copy of data is, the longer it actually takes for that write to happen and then for that to return. So Metro is useful up to around 200 kilometers metropolitan distance. Beyond that, you need something different, and that is an asynchronous write using global mirror technology. And this is the essence of GDPS Global. So this gives you the ability to put a data center, if you want to, on the other side of the planet, typically in the US, East Coast, West Coast, potentially Europe, different ends of the country, or in some cases with our Eastern European clients now, they're looking to put data centers in a Western European country to mitigate concerns of Russia and things happening there. And the asynchronous global mirror will enable you to do that extended distance, but you will lose a second or so of data. And then with these building blocks, we can construct 3-site or 4-site, or actually we've just announced 6-site, where you have a combination of synchronous copies of data locally connected by an async link out to a region B copy. So quick primer on traditional resiliency there. But what we're looking to do in this session is go a bit deeper into what we in IBM call IBM Z CyberVault. Right? Other vendors have solutions out there that are similar. Both Dell and Hitachi have solutions. I obviously think the IBM one is the best. But hopefully this will help you understand the main components of these solutions, and specifically where LCP resides within that, and why it's a critically important component. So there are 3 layers to this. The hard prereq for a CyberVault solution is the IBM DS8000 storage using safeguarded copy technology, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But this is what enables you to have the point-in-time immutable backups, right? So you cannot change them. You can recover from them, but you can't change them. They are immutable. So that gives you the ability to actually run and capture on a regular basis those point-in-time copies. You obviously want to automate this, so you can't be manually spinning these things off. So LCP Manager we'll go into in more detail, but that's going to provide the automation layer for capturing and restoring from these backups. And we also provide an ability to validate those copies. So once you've taken a copy, you may wish to restore that copy, do some level of automated validation on it to give you early indication of anything that goes wrong. Because if you can't IPL from one of your snapshots, something's broken, right? And you need to take action quickly. And then the third part of this is the actual vault environment itself. So this is hardware, LPARs, the full environment, which is separated from your production environment, right? So if you have an issue in production, you think that you've been compromised, you can bring up an earlier copy in this vault environment that is secured, and it gives you an environment to do forensic analysis, understand what's happened, look at different backups, and ultimately form your strategy for how you are going to address fixing production and getting back up and running. And we offer a whole wide range of different kind of tools in this space to ultimately to help you reduce your RPO and RTO. So minimize the amount of data loss and also minimize the elapsed time for the full recovery. Okay, let's dive in here. So I'm a really visual person, and I think it helps to kind of see how these things work. So let's just talk through a quick kind of example here of how safeguarded copy works. So production environment here on the left-hand side, your backups here in the DS8000 and your dedicated CyberVault environment here on the right. And as we go through time, we are taking safeguarded copy backups. So in this particular instance, we are taking a copy every 3 hours. This is normal operations. We're rolling forward. We're taking these things. You can have up to 500 of these currently. That limit is going up to just over 1,000 shortly on the DS8000. But this is normal operations. You're rolling forward. You're taking these backups. They're there if you need them. And then boom, we find we've got an issue in production. Now, what you are able to do with the safeguarded copy technology, with CyberVault, with these point-in-time backups, is you probably would be doing some more sophisticated things than this, but it's for the sake of the example, you could start with your most recent backup, and you could restore it. You could look at it, and in this particular case, we're like, oh shoot, okay, this most recent backup is corrupted. We've still got the issue, so we go back to backup 4. same thing. Go back to backup 3. So this was taken at 12 noon. Here, we've got a good copy. And what we're going to do in this particular case is do a catastrophic recovery. So we are going to push the entire backup back into production. So T minus, 6 hours at this point here. But you prove that copy is good. You're going to push it back into production, get up and running. This is the insurance policy that many regulators will want to know that you can do. Now, in reality, what you'll be doing most of the time is what we call a surgical recovery, where you won't take this entire backup. You will just look at the bad data. You'll go back to a point where before that corruption, and you'll take that specific data and you will forward fix into production, right? That 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the most common use case here. But you have the ability, if you need to have this insurance policy of saying, look, if we need to, let's just go back 3 hours, 6 hours and get the system back up and running. So that, in essence, is how safeguarded copy works within a Cyber Vault solution. And what we're going to talk today about is a bit more detail of the GDPS LCP Manager itself. Now, this is a feature of GDPS. So currently, this is only available for people that are using GDPS for their traditional HA and DR, although I'll touch on later in our statement of direction, we are working on and will be announcing soon the ability to take this capability and use it with clients that have CSM for their HADR backups. So you won't need to completely rip out your CSM environment, install GDPS to use LCP. You'll be able to use LCP standalone with, regardless of whether you're using GDPS or Copy Service Manager for your HA and DR needs. And really what LCP does for you is it provides a productized way to capture these point-in-time backups, provide information about each of those backups. It's going to help you automate the recovery from them. It's going to drive incremental restore into production, so you don't need to do a full copy. You're just pushing across the data that's changed from your production environment. It's going to help manage the expiration of these snapshots, and it's going to help you manage and monitor everything that's going on in this environment. And it's going to do that while providing a whole layer of security around this as well, so that obviously this is going to be a critical system. You're going to want to ensure that only people that really have a business need have access to these systems, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. But essentially, this is LCP Manager. It just provides a very simple, easy, productized solution to enable you to do all the management around these safeguarded copy backups that you're taking on a regular basis that we saw in the previous slide. And it does that by enabling you to set up a range of different management profiles. So again, we won't go into this in too much detail, but this is going to really where it's where you define the key pieces of information that you need to know to actually run your safeguarded copy on a regular basis. So which disk sets to take the protected copy from, which volumes are going to be protected. We work with flash copy as well as safeguarded copy, retention period, minimum capture interval, etc., etc. All these things are captured in the management profile, and then we provide the ability to have script statements, so very simple GDPS scripting to actually articulate, how and when you want to take a new copy, release an existing copy, recover a copy, etc., etc. So super straightforward, easy to use. It just manages all that complexity for you. We do support 2 different deployment models for safeguarded copy with LCP. So virtual isolation is essentially using the same DS8000 as you're already using for your HADR. So it's within the same SAN network. So for some clients, this is a quick and straightforward way of getting up and running with this technology. It is separated, obviously, and those copies are immutable, they can't be touched. But you obviously still have the same set of administrators that are, have access to your regular HADR copies of data and your safeguarded copy cyber resiliency data. So for some clients, that's not acceptable, and they actually want to have a physical isolation with the with the storage and the safeguarded copies actually being off on a separate DS8000 that may or may not be on the same site. It's often separate at the DR region is a typical model, although we have some clients that have an entire third site for this. And this is going to give you a little bit more flexibility. It's going to enable you to set up a whole different set of administrators for that other environment, and can provide an even more additional security around that. And again, this depends on your kind of internal dynamics. I know we've got one client here in the UK that actually has these physically secured in a cage in their data center. So they've actually gone to that level of focus and security to make sure that physically it's actually locked away in a different part of the data center, and you need the keys to get in there. Okay, so one question I get all the time is how often do we need to take captures, and how long should we be holding on to them? So we use this chart all the time, and it kind of shows safeguarded copy frequencies, up at the higher end here, kind of 10 to 30 minutes is the most frequent we see in terms of usage, and the less common is kind of once a day, twice a day. The star is kind of where most of our clients are at today, and this kind of 4 to 6 hour kind of gap. 4 hours is probably the most common median interval frequency now. So yeah, we've seen over time that's come down. So it's shifted from kind of 6 hours down to 4 hours, I'd say, over the last year or two. That definitely seems to be moving to the right, this star. And I would say actually, I know we say most common here is 2 to 5 days, but from some research we did at the end of the year, many of our clients are now holding on to these for 7 days. I would say it's the average, with some of them even pushing out longer than that. So I'd say, yeah, average is probably taking it back up every 4 hours, keeping it for 7 days. Okay, so let's touch on a little bit more of the specific capability that we have within LCP that, regardless of your solution, you need to be looking for to make sure these copies are secured and this environment cannot be tampered with. And the first of these is role-based security for your environment. So we firmly believe here at IBM in a zero trust framework where you are granting access only to the people that need access to do that, on their day-to-day jobs, and potentially with break glass access that can be requested to give them elevated access to do certain tasks if they need to do so. So maybe your operators, for example, that are making sure the systems are running fine, you would give those folks only access to non-pervasive actions, so they can see the information, they can monitor the environment, they can do their jobs, but then you have a much smaller set of SMEs that have access to the pervasive actions. So actually modifying a management profile, taking or deleting expired safeguarded copies, the ability to request and resume the systems. So this is all completely customizable within GDPS. You can define these however you wish, but that key concept of restricting access to those pervasive items, so that if one of your operators was to have their ID compromised, they wouldn't be able to get in there and start changing the frequency of your safeguarded copies or start rolling off the old ones, etc. So key important security element. And we actually go further within GDPS and actually give you the ability to go down to field level security. So all of this stuff can be tweaked to the nth degree to make sure that you are securing your environment in your business in the best possible way. And, depending on the client, there are different approaches here, but we give you complete flexibility to tweak this in whatever way matches the security posture for your organization. The other security part that we've introduced just over a year ago with LCP Manager is the ability to do what we call dual control. So for those pervasive actions where you're modifying existing management profile or getting rid of one, you can turn on dual control so that even though your SME is one of your highly trusted individuals, you can say, I still want to have dual control on this capability. If you're going to be modifying a management profile, then you're a trusted individual, but we have to have a second pair of eyes approve that, and you have a list of separate approvers, so that if one of your trusted IDs, trusted SMEs, has their IDs compromised, they still can't make changes to the system because you have this two-step approach, right? So you would have to get access to both the requester and the user IDs in order to be able to affect that change. So role-based security, dual control, different ways, but you don't need to have one to use the other. They're both kind of separately turn on and offable, but we recommend clients use both of these security processes in their environments. Okay, so let's talk about some other new capability that we've rolled out within LCP recently. When we first started this technology, the feedback we got from most of our clients is that they wanted to use their own schedulers to manage taking the snapshots. Subsequently, that's a pain managing kind of when things go wrong, you're taking down the system, you have to worry about what the scheduler is doing. So we've had a lot of requests for actually baking in a scheduler into LCP. So as of 4.8, which was released at the end of March this year, we now have the ability to, within LCP itself, set up and manage the capturing of these items. So we've got two different examples here with two different management profiles. So we've got one on a 6-hour interval, one on a 4-hour interval, and this is kind of manual mode. So you can you can tweak when you want these things to start and stop. So in this particular instance, we've said we wanted to wait 2.5 hours before starting, and then our 4-hour capture will start to roll forward. The 6-hour will start at when you initiate this, and we'll roll forward. So yeah, you've got control to do it manually. You also have some smarts built in. If you just want to say, well, I want one 6-hour, one 4-hour, we can take care of worrying about how that fits within a 24-hour period. We will automatically adjust where those management profiles are in order to try and space them out as much as possible. So we've tried to make it as easy and as simple as possible to set these things up. So yeah, nice and straightforward for our users. Okay, this is a really busy chart, and I am absolutely not going to go through all of these. I want to have a bit of time here for questions as well. But the one thing I would say is, we have made a ton of investment here over the last few years within IBM, both within the automation layer. So this is largely LCP you see here across the top, but then also in the broader environment with what we're doing with tools like IZBR, which is increasingly integrated into this environment and providing you some great capability for forensic analysis and surgical recovery. And what we're doing with storage and the broader environment with things like threat detection. So this is a new product that was released from the ZOS team in September last year. It looks for anomalous access patterns on your environment using AI techniques, and it can notify when there's an issue. And we can actually, what we're planning on very shortly, announcing support to be able to take action automatically within LCP Manager if we have an event coming out of the threat detection capability. So loads of kind of exciting things happening here. I will just talk very briefly about what we call the statement of direction within GDPS. So this is published on the GDPS website in our What's New doc. So if you wanted to go have a look at what's new in 4.8, at the end of that doc, there's a section on what we have in our statement of direction, and this is our view on where the roadmap's going to go, and it's our intention to deliver these items within a 2-year period. So we called out dual control, I think 2 years ago. We delivered that last year. Six sites as a new GDPS topology. But then we've spoken about some of these items already on this call, right? So we talked about integration with CSM, so you don't have to have GDPS. We've talked about the integration with threat detection for ZOS, so that you can take automated policy-driven actions based on anomalies. We are going to be productizing data validation within LCP, so that every time you take a copy, you may want to do it on every copy, you may want to do it on every, not every copy every second or every fourth, but you'd actually be able to recover that into the vault environment and bring it up and run a succession of validation tests. So does it IPL? Do my subsystems come up? Is my data structure valid? And ultimately have an invocation point for calling application verification scripts that have to be written by obviously the client. We don't know what your data should look like, but we can provide the invocation point to drive out to that. So that capability is coming, and we're also looking to have application roll forward in another IBM product later this year. That if you wanted to recover from T minus, say your last good backup was T minus 2 hours, but the cyber event was only just before your backup was scheduled. You may have an hour and a half of good data within that 2-hour window. An application roll forward is a way of capturing database log files and bootstrap information, and then say, right, I'm going to recover to T minus 2 hours, but then I'm going to roll forward to T minus 30 minutes, which is the most recent point before my my breach. So interesting technology there. And I've mentioned IBM's IZBR, or IBM Z Backup Resiliency. Again, great for doing enhanced surgical recovery, and essentially enabling you to reduce the elapsed time it's going to take to get back up and running, because you have tools that are surfacing the information that you need to know in a very, very easy to use way. Just very quickly on the kind of growth of LCP. So safeguarded technology was available for the very first time back in 2018. There, as always, is an adoption curve kind of period where people are, starting to think about whether they really need this technology, kick the tires, do proof of concepts. But I would say, particularly over the last year or two, we've seen a massive acceleration in this number. More than 30% of the world's top 25 banks are now using LCP technology, and that number is growing rapidly. Right, we know within our GDPS Design Council that number is above 50% of our client base now. My expectation is that will get to 100%. I think everyone is going to be using this technology fairly soon. And I just want to talk about an anonymized, not anonymized, but this is a real customer, but generally people don't want to put their name on these slides, but it's a good example of a large European bank driven by Dora, wanted to be able to have a solution where they can actually do the validation, and recover within a certain business defined criteria. So they have rolled out CyberVault. It's running in their environment. I actually stood up with the architect of this, IBM Tech Exchange, in Barcelona at the beginning of last year, and we talked about this solution. And they are, very, very pleased with it. And it's good example to say, this is not slideware, right? We have a ton of customers out there that are really doing this, and it's meeting the business goals that they set out at the beginning of the project. So finally, I just kind of point you to the very latest Red Book. You can find it on the link here, IBM ZCB Red Book. We have updated this at the end of last year, and we'll be doing a further update in another month or so here as well to build out some of the latter chapters. But well worth taking a look at this. The original Red Book was a few years old, so we've got some brand new information in there. And there is a ton of links and various pieces in here that you may find useful. If you ever have any questions, just drop an email to gdps@us.ibm.com. Myself, some of the other senior leaders in GDPS monitor that, and we'll help you, right? So don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Okay, so let me pause there, pop up the session feedback slide, take a look at the QR code, give me some feedback, and I will open it up for questions. We've only got a couple of minutes, but let's see if there's any questions in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nathan. Phenomenal session with a lot of information to uncover and unpick, but it was really interesting to get that insight into your kind of world. So, like Nathan said, if there's any questions, everyone, please feel free to just pop it in the chat, or hopefully I can unmute you all and you guys can ask away. But yeah, don't feel afraid to shy away from asking questions. It's an open space, so you guys can gather your understanding if there was any parts you were confused. So yeah. In the meantime, my question to you, Nathan, is will we actually have access to these slides? Because I checked on the GS website and I don't think you can download these slides. So would the participants, like, how would they get access to these slides?
If anyone would like access to the slides,
Yeah.
just drop an email to gdps@us.ibm.com. I monitor those. I will happily share. So okay, yeah, I didn't realize the virtual session, so I can't upload the
Oh, I
slide deck.
see.
Is that right? Or
Yeah, because normally on the GS website there's like this blue icon and that kind of allows you to download those slides, but for this session in particular you can't. So I'm assuming the participants can't either. So
oh, it may be. I haven't updated them yet. I was tweaking them
okay,
this morning, so
yeah,
I can go and upload them,
yeah, okay,
and hopefully
perfect.
that will mean that the tick is available and people can download them. So yes, let me take that as a to do. So
Yeah,
yeah, check later on this afternoon. Yeah, I was still playing with the slide deck this morning, so yeah, I will make sure those go up.
okay, perfect. Thanks so much. And like I said before, please give feedback to Nathan. Every feedback counts. It helps him improve his session next time. So, like that QR code on his left-hand slide, please just use that. Just take a few moments to just give a few ratings, and that should be it. But yeah, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I'm assuming there is no questions. Because I have tried to unmute everyone, but I think I have to do it like one by one.
Yeah, don't worry. That's perfectly fine. I think sometimes people don't want to ask questions on an open
Yes.
forum. Like I said, feel free to email or reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So
Yeah.
Nathan Bryce, just drop me a question there. Again, always happy to respond.
Yes. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, everyone. And thank you, Nathan, for taking part in this session and delivering that material to us. It's been very informative. So I hope you will have a great day and just give me a second. Yeah, I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your GSC sessions today. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Take care. Bye-bye.